Howdy, guys, and welcome to night 54 of the Overnight Feeds recaps for Big Brother Season 24. And welcome to Cliff Notes. Wow. Let's say again, just wow. What a dramatic, what a tense past 20 hours or so inside the Big Brother house. It has been something else as a live feeder. We're going to talk about all of it. Now, normally I cover the overnight feeds, right? I would have started soon after the TV episode was over. We're going to change it up a little bit different, do it a little differently today because there were so many conversations that took place yesterday afternoon that merit discussion that we needed to cover. And because the feeds were down so much in the later evening hours, and even when they weren't down, we didn't have as much game talk because of what had been talked about earlier in the day. So we're opening up the area that we're covering just a little bit. Let's get right into it. First of all, as a bit of a refresher, remember that Brittany and Taylor on the block, but Michael had won veto on Saturday. He should be using it at today's veto ceremony on Brittany. That hadn't changed. All of that still stays the same. But Turner's HOH originally planned to grab someone from the After Party Alliance as a pawn, put them up next to Taylor, send Taylor to the jury house as the target. Well, now that's all changed. Changed completely, and we're going to talk about it. So I mentioned in yesterday's recap that the night before, Brittany and Michael were trying to figure out ways that they could drive a wedge into this new alliance, the After Party Alliance. Michael and Brittany realized that they just didn't have the numbers with this new group, trying to figure out what they could do to break that up a little bit. During that discussion, they also discussed whether they should bring up the conversation that Kyle and Michael had a couple of weeks ago when Michael was HOH, in which Kyle had discussed with Michael fears of a Cookout 2.0 forming, potentially forming with the people of color in the house, people that had similar backgrounds, I think is how Kyle had phrased it at the time. But they're talking about whether or not they should bring that information up. Now, remember, right before the veto competition, Brittany almost brought it up to Alyssa at that point in time, thought she was going to, but she didn't. Well, after the veto competition was over, they had the discussion again about whether they needed to have that conversation with Alyssa and others within the house. Well, yesterday, the conversation was had with a lot of people and created a lot of tense situations inside the house that we're going to cover. So the conversation itself, Michael and Brittany grabbed Alyssa, took her up into the have-not room. I want to say that's about 1:30 or so Houston time, so about 11:30 or so Big Brother time, so around lunchtime, noontime, not too much after the house guests had all woken up. But Michael and Brittany grabbed Alyssa. Michael told Alyssa that Kyle had suggested to him a couple of weeks before this idea that Joseph and Monty and Taylor maybe were working together because of their backgrounds, because they were people of color. And that Kyle at that point had mentioned to Michael a fear that maybe a second Cookout Alliance could be forming, would be forming, concerns that something along those lines might exist. At that point, Michael tells Alyssa, says, look, Kyle insinuated that he wanted to form an all-white alliance, though he never used those words, but that was certainly the insinuation from his conversation. And Brittany jumps in and says, look, we don't want it to seem like we're using this information for game purposes, but we did want to bring it up. Alyssa, in shock, taken aback, as you can imagine. Michael comes right out and says, look, because of all this, we want to put Kyle on the block this week, and that's what we're going to be gunning for. Now, remember, the night before, Michael had said that he was going to consider a Hail Mary to try to get, I think he said, to get Kyle's ass on the block. Well, is this a Hail Mary? It certainly could be part of it, because he is telling Alyssa that he wants to get Kyle on the block as a result of this. Now, in addition to the conversation with Alyssa, it sounds like Michael and Brittany might have also passed on that same information, had a similar conversation to Monty and Taylor earlier. I went back, I looked through the feeds. I couldn't find the conversation. I'm not sure it was captured by the cameras. Not sure, but apparently based on later conversations, they told Monty and Taylor the same thing. Later, Michael meets with Turner in the HOH room, Same time this conversation is taking place, Kyle and Alyssa are talking downstairs. We'll talk about it in a second. But Michael is meeting with Turner up in the HOH room. Later, Brittany comes in as well. And Michael's saying a lot of the same things. He's telling Turner that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm using the exact words here, Kyle basically pitched to me an all-white alliance. He then says that Kyle never used those words. I'm paraphrasing, but basically he wanted to form an all-white alliance. And he says as well that Turner, you were mentioned, your name came up as part of this potential alliance as well. Michael went into more detail, again saying he was paraphrasing a lot of the conversations he had with Kyle, but trying to get the message across. Turner is thanking him for the information and saying, look, I hate to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't even know what to say at this point in time. And Michael then says, well, can I just suggest you got to make the renomination tomorrow. So can I suggest that it may be good to go ahead and put Kyle up as your replacement when you have to make that renomination? So that conversation finishes up. So at this point, I think everyone in the house is aware of what's going on, except for Kyle and except for Terrence. Terrence kind of misunderstands the situation. At first, he thinks that Brittany and Michael have been caught trying to form an all-white alliance, and Monty clears it up, said, no, not them. They're saying that Kyle had come to them or come to Michael wanting to do that. So Terrence has got the understanding as well. So now with everyone except Kyle in the house aware of the situation, it becomes very quiet, very tense in the house. A week ago, it was quiet because there were only 5 people in the house. Now it's quiet because everyone's not really sure what to do with this information and how to handle it. But eventually, Kyle goes in, finds Alyssa. She's in the Jetsons' bedroom, covered up with a blanket and really not wanting to talk, it doesn't seem like. But Kyle kind of continues to push and says, hey, what was the conversation that they had you involved in? Was there anything that we didn't expect? What's going on? He says, I know that that Michael and Brittany are up there talking to Turner right now. What did they tell you? She's very hesitant to say anything at all to him, and says at one point, I'm not sure if it's my place. And he said, well, what does that mean? What's going on? Eventually, she says, look, Michael and Brittany made it seem like it wasn't so much that you were wanting to work with some people in the house as much as you were not wanting to work with some other people in the house, specifically Monty and Taylor and Joseph. And that was because you thought that maybe a new cookout alliance had formed. At this point, Kyle picks up on what's all going on, says he's in shock. It says, no, that's not it. He said, I've never made anything about race. Now they're making it about race. He's saying, you realize this is beyond the game. This is affecting my life outside. This is horrible. This is horrific. And he asks Alyssa, he says, do you believe what they're saying? And she says, no, I don't believe it. At that point, Kyle says, if that's what they're saying, I'm out of here. I got to deal with it. He gets up, he heads to the downstairs diary room, tries to go in. The message says diary room is not available. I think Taylor was in there at the time. So he can't go to the downstairs diary room. He immediately says, I need the upstairs diary room then. Goes up there, same message, diary room is not available. Comes back downstairs saying, you got to get me in somewhere, guys. He gets to the downstairs diary room, and apparently, I guess the diary room must have immediately said, all right, Taylor, we're done. Have a great day. Get out of here. Because they must have kicked Taylor out, because the diary room is now available. Just as Kyle's going in, closing the door, Taylor's coming out, I think from the storage room. Taylor's coming out with a bag of Lay's potato chips. And so, yeah, dramatic turn of events taking place right now. All right, Kyle's in obvious distress as he goes in. And meanwhile, as I mentioned, while this is all going on, we had Michael and Brittany upstairs talking to Turner. Well, that conversation is ended. Turner is now talking to the cameras by himself because they're gone. And he's saying, there's cameras all over this house. I just can't picture Michael and Brittany saying that in front of all these cameras if it wasn't true. So I'm kind of believing what they're telling me about that conversation that took place. So he's on board with it. We also have a little bit later Monty talking to Alyssa, saying, look, Michael and Brittany would really have to stoop pretty low to make up something like that. So everyone is believing Michael and Brittany and what they're talking about, which certainly is not good for Kyle at this point in time. All right, by early evening, we've got Turner telling Alyssa, saying, look, I'm probably going to put up Kyle as a renomination. It was suggested to me, and I think it's the way to do it. Let the house decide how they want to handle this. So I'm just giving you the heads up that I probably am putting up Kyle. And with that, just a little bit before the TV episode aired, the feeds cut. They cut, and then they're gone for a long time. In fact, they're out for about 5 hours or so. Now, during that 5 hours, all kinds of rumors online that Kyle had self-evicted, that there was a big house meeting going on. No one knew what was going on. We really didn't know. But eventually, after about 5 hours, the feeds do come back, and almost immediately after they come back, we see Kyle looks like he's coming out of the diary room. So maybe he was, we don't know if he was in there the entire 5 hours or not, but it's certainly feasible. It could be. It looks like he's just come out of the diary room, and he immediately says, do y'all know where Michael is? I want to talk to Michael. And I think Alyssa or someone says, oh, he's in the Jetsons' bedroom. So Kyle takes off to talk to him. Unfortunately, we live feeders don't get to see that conversation. I know CBS is holding some of this back for their episodes. I'm sure that's why some of this wasn't shown to us. But we don't get to see that. The cameras stay focused on the kitchen instead, where everyone else pretty much is. But we do have that. Now, it turns out that 5 hours, is it because of everything that's going on with Kyle, or were there other situations as well? Well, it could be other situations also, because we also find out that Michael got his movie. Remember, winning veto meant he got to watch a movie and take some other people. And it sounds like that Michael also took Turner and Alyssa and Taylor to watch the movie with him. We don't know what it seems like they enjoyed it. We don't know what the movie is, but after a month or two in the house, I know it could have been a movie on making cheese and all in German or something. I still would have loved to sit in there and watch it, just have something different. Well, they loved whatever the movie was. They also come back with all kinds of popcorn and Jones soda and different snacks, Twizzlers, all kinds of different movie type foods. So that may be some of the reason that the feeds were down for as long as they were. But we had the movie going on. Now, gotta say, yeah, you enjoy watching a movie, right? It had to be kind of tense up there, especially with Alyssa and Michael watching the movie together, and Turner as well. I mean, it had to be a little tense watching this movie with everyone else there. Maybe not the most opportune time for that particular little perk to pop up, but it is what it is. Now, something that happened that probably was really beneficial to the house guest: the backyard opened. Soon after the feeds open, we see everyone running. And I thought, oh my gosh, what's going on? This everyone's running. Well, it turns out it's because the back door opened, the backyard's available. Remember, some of these house guests haven't seen the backyard in over a week, the insiders. So they're all very excited to get outside, to get some fresh air, get out of that stale air from inside the house. It's gonna make air, take the stress level down just a little bit. I mean, still a lot going on in the house, but it'll take it down just a little bit. So they're all happy to be outside. Feed's cut for about 30 minutes or so. When they come back, Brittany's in the backyard crying. She's crying. She heads over to the hammock. I think Alyssa and maybe Taylor go over there to comfort her a little bit. Don't know what caused the crying. She seemed in decent spirits when the feeds cut away. Don't know if it's just the overall stress of the house or something happened during those 30 minutes that the feeds were gone. We just don't know. At one point, Brittany says something about, while y'all were upstairs watching movies, kind of tense downstairs for the rest of the house. So she said that, and then later feeds cut for 30 minutes. Don't know. We'll see if we find out later, but she's definitely in not a great mood when the feeds come back. That being said, the feeds cut out for about an hour. Tough as a live feed viewer watching the feeds last night. Very, very difficult to keep up with all this as much as the feeds were going down. But when they return after that hour, we see Taylor and Monty and Terrence and Turner. They're all playing pool outside. Eventually, Alyssa comes out also. And I got to say, Alyssa, considering that her showmance is facing what he's facing, Alyssa seems to be in decent spirits, trying to laugh a little bit, fit in with everyone else. So Alyssa's out with them as well. Not talking any game, just talking general stuff. We do get a very brief shot of Kyle eating by himself in the kitchen, blanket over his shoulders, looking very distraught and very alone at the time. So we do see that. Turner at one point says, look, I'm going to go in and talk to Kyle. And as he starts to head in, we lose the feeds again. So we don't know what the conversation was, how long, or anything else. We do have Taylor and Terrence and Monty and Michael and eventually Alyssa again later, all sitting out by the hot tub. Hot water in the hot tub, which was never the case during my season, but very hot water. They're sitting around the hot tub. Very much not game talk. Going out of their way not to have game talk, it seems like to me. Except for a very quick mention of battle back and Turner saying, I just don't think there's going to be a battle back. We don't have enough weeks left in the season. Well, theoretically, you could have had Jasmine and, you could already have house guests getting ready for battle back. We know that's not the case, but they talk about battling back and not thinking it's going to happen, and they're right. But again, other than that, not really any game talk. And from Michael, not any talk at all. Probably 30, 45 minutes where it doesn't seem like Michael said a single word. He's just sitting over the side, looking very deep in thought, very, very introspective. We'll use that. That's the word of the day. But Michael was very introspective during this particular segment. So I'm not sure what's going through his mind at this point in time. Eventually, the scene shifts a little bit. We've got Turner and Monty, and I can't remember who else I've got out here. Playing pool while Kyle is showering by himself. Sometimes a nice long hot shower makes everything feel a little bit better, right? But Kyle's inside showering. They're out playing pool. Kyle eventually is sleeping in the golf bedroom. I never seen him sleeping in that bed before, but he's in that golf bedroom probably about 1 o'clock or so, Big Brother time. I thought Alyssa was next to him. It's not Alyssa. It's Brittany sleeping in the bed next to him. So they're both in bed, calling an early evening. Meanwhile, we've got Monty and Turner still outside playing pool. Turner is saying that Michael had told Turner that he'd be safe next week, and Monty saying, yeah, Taylor said the same thing. Taylor said they're not going to punish you for doing the right thing, i.e. putting Kyle on the block. So they're both saying that, Turner, you're good. No worries. We'll see if that's the case or not. But Turner is hoping that maybe Taylor or Michael or Brittany win HOH next week so that they can take out Terrence or Alyssa and then take out the other one over the next 2 weeks. Remember, they're still kind of in this after party alliance. So Turner's not really wanting to be the one with blood on his hands. He's hoping that maybe they can win, take out Terrence and Alyssa. At that point, they would then have a final five of Turner, Monty, Michael, Brittany, and Taylor. So there you go. All right, they continue to play pool. They played pool for a long time, enjoying the outdoors. Of course, Turner spent a lot of time outdoors. Monty, not so much. Turner, a lot of time outside. But they spent a lot of time playing pool, but absolutely no game talk. Now, there was a little bit of an interesting conversation, middle of the night kind of conversation sometimes I've ever had. Turner talks about coming out as bisexual while in high school or right after high school, right around that time period in his life. Not sure if he's really talked about that before on the feeds or inside the house, but he hadn't mentioned on that. And it's just, Monty's there, so very receptive to it and listening as well. And eventually Taylor comes out and takes place at the very tail end of that particular conversation. But the three of them are out there then just talking. Again, no game talk or anything else. Eventually, about 2:30 or so, Big Brother time, Turner gives a goodbye message to his girlfriend before everyone heads inside. And we have then finally Taylor and Monty start to have a conversation in the bumper pool room upstairs. But just as they start to have the conversation, the feed's cut to a bunch of house guests sleeping. It's not that there's anything more important going on somewhere else, but the production just didn't want to have us see the conversation between Monty and Taylor. So they're having a conversation upstairs that we're missing. When the feeds do come back, now Turner has joined them upstairs. No game talk. It's talk about the Twizzlers. I didn't know there was wheat in Twizzlers, but apparently there is. Thank you, Taylor, for pointing out. Talk about Twizzlers, Monty's toes, Monty's fidgeting. Just a lot of middle of the night type conversations. So with that, house guests finally, the last couple of them are in bed by 4:30, 4:15, 4:30 or so, Big Brother time. Ready to call it a night after an incredibly long, incredibly dramatic day inside the Big Brother house. I gotta say, having been in there are days where the stress levels, the paranoia, the emotions get so strong, they just can become incredibly overwhelming. yesterday was one of those kind of days. I'm sure everyone appreciated getting some sleep. We'll see what happens today. We've got the veto ceremony. I fully expect it to be used on Brittany. I fully expect Kyle to go on the block. In fact, at one point, I think Turner's talking to Monty and says, "Yeah, I went up and told Kyle," because I think Kyle for a while was up in Turner's HOH room, but he says, "Yeah, I told Kyle that I'm probably putting him on the block," and he said Kyle laughed and said, "Yeah, I know you are, and I'm going home on Thursday." So Kyle's aware of the situation. I expect Kyle to be put on the block today. We'll see what kind of conversations take place before and after the ceremony. We didn't get to hear any conversations with Kyle. I don't know if he had any. It sounds like he had one with Michael, but we don't really know where Kyle's head's at right now and what's going on. We'll see if that doesn't solidify. We figure out a little bit more out today through the rest of the day. I will be back tomorrow. I'll give you the updates on everything that happened. It may be another very interesting day, but I will be back tomorrow. Also tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central, I will be doing Cliff Notes Live. So if you got any big burning questions, come out there. It's on YouTube channel. Find my YouTube channel. Check it out. We'll talk for an hour or so. All Big Brother. We'll have plenty of content to talk about tonight. Guys, y'all have a fantastic Monday. I will see you either this evening or tomorrow morning. Until then, SKD 143. Cheers, my friends.